Welcome to the GSMC Business News Podcast, the show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. If you're looking for a podcast to keep you informed and ahead of the game in business, the GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Business Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Moriah, and today we're discussing the real estate market, all right? So welcome to the neighborhood. Myself, along with many others, have begun their home purchasing journey as millennials, and we are just looking to continue that trend. However, we are met with a few different outside, I would say, influences, being as though millennials are now a big portion of the home purchasing market because we are at what's called our peak. A lot of individuals and I would say some experts have been seriously zoning in on the millennial home buying market, just trying to see, exactly what we're purchasing, how we're purchasing, basically our purchasing habits. So that's what we'll be covering today. Just a little bit about the residential real estate market, which is surging right now. Again, we're going to touch on the millennials and how, myself included, are going about purchasing homes. Then we'll touch on a little bit of the different type of residential real estate that's out there. There's flipping and selling, there's strictly selling. There is education in the e-commerce market right now, providing some educational services so that people don't have to learn in the traditional sense of real estate. And then we're just going to touch on some hometown heroes, just some people I've been following who I think are kind of taking this residential real estate market to the level that it's at, or they have impact, I should say. All right. So today, let's just hop right in. So as we know, the residential real estate market is basically, it's at its highest peak since, I want to say, around the '08 market crash. A little bit earlier, towards the mid 2000s, around 2005, 2006, is when we really began to see the uptick in the selling of homes. So around that time, just like now, but not as such a high demand, we were seeing a lot of purchases of homes, commercial residents as well, but mainly the residential market was seeing a boom around 2006. So just to give some backdrop, or some, for those of us who were still young, I was still very young at this time as well, but I was paying attention because I had an aunt who did real estate, so I was really interested in the market. I was trying to figure out if this was something that I wanted to do. I was getting ready to go to college in a few years, and I just kind of thought real estate might be for me. And then I got to see the market crash before I decided to pursue any career. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Feel bad for those who were affected by it at the time. But yeah, that time, I just can remember it vividly. So just to take some of the listeners back again, if you weren't paying attention at the time or really don't know much about it, what was happening was a lot of home buyers were trying to get a bigger home, or a more expensive home, maybe after a year. So what happened was there was some good interest rates and some good loan rates, good refinance rates at the time. And so a lot of home buyers were looking to get, a better home in a better neighborhood, just a nicer space. So a lot of people were just looking for some change. It was really various reasons why anyone purchases a new home or why they're looking to move. So around that time, again, this is around 2004, 2005, 2006, around that time frame. There were great rates on houses, right? And then there were people putting down, their small down payments. A lot of them had, I want to say, they had bad credit. For the most part, a lot of individuals who did have bad credit were still being approved for these large loans on houses, right? And again, they weren't asking, a lot of industries weren't asking for much down. And then mortgages can be sold as security. So there was just a lot of transactions going on around this time. A lot of newness. A lot of new brokers had got into the field at this time. And, everyone was just looking at this, there wasn't enough demand, I'll say, for the homes like it is now. Like in 2021, the demand for a home is very, very high. We'll get into that in a few. At the time, though, back when the market first crashed in 2008, there was an oversupply of homes for the people who were demanding the homes. So they were creating two, basically, to put it simple for some, if you sell a product, you might sell juice, and you purchase about 1 million bottles of juice, right? But you only have about 500,000 sales, so now you have this surplus of inventory that's not going anywhere because the demand just isn't as high as what you're producing. So to make it, simple, that's kind of what was happening. There was this oversupply of houses, and sometimes, again, the mortgages were requiring low payments in the beginning. So they were putting people were putting small down payments on homes, and then they were locked into this rate because in some instances, the beginning mortgage for the first few years was really, really low compared to, average or the years prior to that. So you get these people locked. Let's again recap. They had bad credit. They may not have come from such a good financial backing, so there wasn't that much income in some of the homes of the individuals who were purchasing homes, and then they're locked into this low rate. So because of this, again, we have some individuals who were locked in these low rates who in the years to come could not afford the higher rates because by that point, in certain scenarios, the market had begun to fall. So you have all these moving pieces, all these shifting layers of what's going on, what's causing, the crash. And what ended up happening was there was a 2015 National Association of Realtors study done, and they looked at the numbers and saw that between 2016 and 2014, close to 9 million households had to give up their home, went through some type of foreclosure, some type of sale of that nature. So, again, during that time, it just wasn't good for the real estate business. If you were a realtor, you had properties. You might not have wanted to sell at that time, or you might have needed to sell at that time because you just were trying to recoup losses. Some individuals chose to stay put and just try to wait it out. But again, you had to have a certain type of income. So what I would say is that I would agree with some experts when they mention, the lending standards were very, very loose. Because if you give someone who has, say for instance, on their credit report, a poor payment history, they may have the income to, keep the bills rolling. They may be able to afford the pricing of the home in cash or with their current income. However, your credit report is just basically your history, your money history. So if as a lender you see that this person may have poor payment history, where their credit is just very, very low for various, reasons, you might just want to take another look to see, if during the long haul, will they be able to afford what's being offered or what's being approved, I should say. So that was basically, in a nutshell, what was happening around that time. So you fast forward to now, and there is a pandemic going on. A lot of people have to, find either cheaper places to live or they're looking for a place of more convenience. For example, there are I want to say like some major crowded cities such as New York and San Francisco, for example. Some individuals are leaving. They're looking for cheaper places to live. The cost of living in those cities I just mentioned can be fairly high. I know a few people personally who are discussing, leaving New York to go to another major city that just has a lower cost of living. A lot of jobs are becoming remote now. So if they're, say your job locks you into this pay and you can afford to live in another city and save and pay your bills and pay off debt and all that, the budget gets open a little bit more. A lot of people are weighing that option. So that's what's going on right now. So some cities are seeing an influx of people, which of course is going to, affect other industries. But specifically the residential real estate industry is seeing a boom because people are looking for places to stay. And because we're in a pandemic, a lot of people aren't looking to move. A lot of people are actually holding on to properties. So what we're seeing now is what's different from the '08 market crash. Because again, at that time, it was like an oversupply of homes compared to the demand. Now, there's not enough homes to meet the demand. So as soon as a home, hits the market, it's gone very quickly because, like if you've been listening to the podcast thus far, I've mentioned a few times how I had to move during this time of the pandemic, and it was really difficult finding a home that was still in the price range of what I normally paid. I want to say everything went up in cost around that time that I was moving. So although I had a budget, I was still able to go above the budget for what I got for the place I'm at. But again, it was just very, very difficult because, again, everyone's looking to move, especially with a lot of individuals lost their jobs. And people are losing their homes because they're unable, obviously, because they lost their job, they're unable to pay for their home expenses. So a lot of moving and shifting pieces when it comes to the real estate market right now. I haven't been so involved with, new real estate news in years because it's just crazy to see. I guess because I was on the end of looking to purchase or looking to rent. And being able to sit and talk with different landlords and different property owners about how, I have to act quickly because, just things are moving fast and they can have someone in the place that I might be looking at today or tomorrow. This was some of the responses I was getting, and I totally understood because of what was going on around me. So even though it was only supposed to be, or everyone in the beginning, majority of people were just stating it was a health crisis, it was actually a business crisis. A lot of small businesses, such as realtors, their agencies, they were seeing a loss because, some people just aren't able to pay their expenses. However, if you were the type to, have someone renting from you during this time and they're unable to pay their bills, a lot of states implemented, some standards that you're unable to evict certain tenants. So there has been, even though the industry is booming, depending on the segment of the market you either work in or interact with, again, I'm a renter in the market, the agents or a landlord who may act as an agent at the same time, they may be experiencing a loss because they're unable to get the payment from their tenants. So the industry, although it's booming, there are some downsides to it. Again, people are leaving certain cities. So that's making, when they come with their income and they may help in raising the property taxes around the neighborhood, depending on what they're, purchasing their home for. That's affecting everyone in that neighborhood because those who are unable to meet up with the demands, again, like back in '08 when some people just couldn't afford the payments any longer, those places who are the lenders are going to start seeing a downside as well because now they're not getting their money either. So the landlord's not the tenant isn't receiving any income because of the pandemic and job loss. Now the landlord isn't receiving their rent. So if the landlord doesn't own that property, he has a mortgage on the property. So now that mortgage company or that lender is also seeing a loss as well. So even though, again, the industry is booming, there is also still the downside to that. But I like to be positive and optimistic. The upside is if you already own your home, you're in a great place to be if you're looking to sell. Because right now, again, because the demand is so high, if you're looking to either refinance, you can get those low rates. If you're looking to sell, you can go ahead and sell. If you're looking to get in the industry, I would say if you have some properties or you've purchased some properties or you have, some type of agency you work for, you could get in the market as well because it is a boom and prices are on the rise. I want to say previously in other studies, some home buyers were looking for really, really low prices, like $100,000 in a certain neighborhood could get you something fairly nice. Now homes are going for, I want to say the average is close to $300,000. So there are some wins and some losses, as in any industry. But the pandemic has been doing that. I would say has been doing the residential real estate market pretty good. So we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into who's actually buying these homes. Depending on the age, and there's also the racial gap as well in the home buying. That's been for years, but we'll just briefly touch on it. Then we'll talk about my favorite is the different types of real estate that's going on right now, such as, just traditional buying, flipping. There's a lot of educational courses online now that you hadn't seen before. And then we'll just touch on some hometown heroes, okay? So stay locked in.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
Again, this is your girl Moriah, and today we're talking about the residential real estate market and how it's faring during the pandemic. We briefly gave some history, just running down. I'm sure many recall, not everyone, but I'm sure a lot of listeners recall the '08 market crash, and how there was just an oversupply of homes that didn't really meet the demand. So some builders saw losses during that time. A lot of home buyers saw losses as well because they couldn't afford the prices of their mortgage. There was a few factors like how strict the lending standards are now compared to at that time. So now, although there's a boost, we are seeing some individuals will eventually or are being blocked out from certain advantages of purchasing a home or getting into that market simply because of either there's the wealth gap that plays a part, and that can be broken down by race. So there was some studies done, and one that I'll mention today was done by the Urban Institute, and they were just projecting that by the year 2040, generations to come, they're just going to have a lower home ownership rate, and that's because of the wealth gap. They're not able to really build that household wealth. So, the time it might take an affluent family to save money to purchase a home, a family that's in poverty obviously will take double that time, if almost in some cases they never are able to purchase a home. So right now, because there is an increase in the pricing of homes due to the pandemic, and again, people are looking to move, people are looking to live in a better neighborhood, people are looking to just maybe change their scenery. A lot of individuals lost their jobs, lost loved ones, lost some either their income or supplemental income. So a lot of people are just looking for change, and right now, so many so many people are looking for it, the demand is so high that there's not enough places. So I mentioned earlier I had to move during the pandemic, and I wasn't able to find the same rates that I had saw in years prior. So I was at one house for a while, and then when I went to move during the pandemic in 2020, I was unable to find anything near the rate that I was currently paying. So at one point, I was just thinking, okay, it is a pandemic going on. Let me just sit still, just ride this out. I can, if I've been here this long, I can hold out a little bit longer. But, circumstances changed and I had to move. So I was able to find something, but it was slightly over my budget. Things have been good. I'm loving it. So far, so good. But I just seeing the studies done, living in it, and then, being that purchaser, being that person on the lookout for a home, and then actually reading the studies on it, like, hey, I'm a part of that percentage. I think it's really cool. I like the whole researching aspect of everything. Sidebar. But getting right back to the topic, the Urban Institute, again, they projected by 2040 that home ownership rates were gonna go down. So younger Americans are just not going to be able to build the wealth in the home that they were either getting before, or that they were aspiring to have, or that they were having in generations prior. The biggest gap between home ownership, according to certain studies, is between the white household and the black household. So they were saying that the home ownership rate in black households is going to decline between last year 2020 and the year 2040. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. I know a few individuals who have been purchasing homes around this time, especially during the pandemic, because the rates are so low. So it'll be interesting to see how the predictions actually fare versus reality. Now, again, like I stated, I was able to find something, but it was above my budget. There's been some cases where that's been happening. Now, in my case, I am a renter. But for the people who have been buying, they're seeing, something, again, like they would have paid $200,000 for it, or they might have had a down payment of $200,000. They're seeing that doesn't even compare to, the ratio between that and the price of the home. So it's just interesting to see that across the board, whether you're renting, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, no matter if you're a builder or not, everyone is seeing some good and some bad with the influence of the pandemic, with the rise in the prices of the home, and the great interest rates that a lot of individuals are getting right now. Now, the home buying market can change. Again, these are just predictions. I feel like because of the pandemic, things are we're taking it in. You can have your prediction, but it's really a day by day, week by week, month by month type of environment that we're in right now. Because of the unpredictability of it all, no one expected a pandemic to take place. Things were just going as normal. The old normal, because we're in a new normal now, right? So things were just going the way they've always gone, and then there's a mandatory stay-at-home order. People weren't leaving their homes to go to work. A lot of us began teleworking. So people begin to see that, okay, I might live in a certain neighborhood, but maybe I don't get the best internet connection. I might need to move, or I might need to change, internet providers, things of that nature. So you're just seeing a lot of moving going on, a lot of home buying going on. And because of that, because of the '08 crash, a lot of builders have been recovering from having, taken a loss over a decade ago. So now we're seeing that there's not enough homes to be purchased. You do see a lot of renting, though. There was a report done by Apartment List. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's an app called Apartment List, and you can go in there, put in a specific zip code. If you want to rent, you can see if the landlord allows pets. It's all kind of specifications you can put on there to find a place to live. So they did a report, and they found that almost 1 in 5 millennials expect to rent, and they don't see themselves ever purchasing a home. Some millennials believe that, purchasing a home in the long run may come out to be more expensive than, renting versus the home buying. They just think that renting might be better. They don't want to be locked into a 30-year fixed rate. I know for me, I don't want to be locked into anything that long either. So I understand the plight. The reason why I'm mentioning millennials is because millennials are at the peak of the home buying age right now. So we are at this time the biggest purchasers. So again, they don't believe that, purchasing a home is in the best interest. Now with the pandemic going on, a lot of home buyers really are trying to stay put as much as possible because of the pricing of the homes now. Although in times past, a lot of home buyers were looking for cheaper homes. Now you can't really find a home that's considered cheap for some middle to low class families. So you're definitely seeing a change in the scene. Now, again, although millennials are at the peak of home buying age, they're not really looking to spend too much. So there's a split between those who are looking for, if I'm going to buy something, it better be nice. So we're going all out on it, as opposed to those who are just kind of frugally shopping for a home. So that there's definitely segments within that age demographic and how they're going about purchasing homes. Another fact that I thought was kind of interesting from this study was that a large percentage, I want to say more than 80% of those who were a part of this study stated that they were looking to be more financially stable to make the hefty down payment. Now, again, the rates are low for the mortgages, so it's easier to finance, but the down payment is much higher. So a lot of home buyers at this time are unable to make those down payments, so they have to stick with renting. Some just don't see anything that they would want as far as what's available, because again, everything's going so quickly. So you don't want to get locked into a mortgage and you don't really like the neighborhood, or you don't really like the house as much, but it's within your budget. So a lot of millennials are looking to get, again, if you're going to get it, make sure it's something that you like. That's kind of the mindset. So making sure the finances are up to par is, I would say, the biggest roadblock for a lot of home buyers. And as compared to some generations past and other respondents of the study, a lot of millennials don't feel that the same way like the older generations. They're not really waiting to get married or to, buy their dream home with their dream life partner. They're really just looking for financial stability, and so that they're able to get what they want for a good price without really breaking the bank. Because a lot of millennials right now are paying for, there was a study done. A lot of shoppers in this age demographic are looking for convenience. They're shopping online and they're paying down debts. So as you know, many Americans have student loan debt that they're paying for right now. That's in a lot of cases the biggest bill that a lot of individuals have. So because of that, there's really not anything extra for purchasing a home. So a lot of home buyers are waiting, just kind of riding the wave. This is where I'll be for now, just staying put, get my ducks in a row before I take that leap in purchasing a home. A lot of individuals just see it as being risky buying a home, especially when you don't have a certain amount of savings or a certain amount of a down payment, as opposed to renting, because you can purchase a home, but if something breaks, you are now responsible. So you can't call, the maintenance guy at your complex, and you can't reach out to your landlord for certain things that need to be repaired when you purchase a home. You are the maintenance and the landlord guy. So a lot of millennials are just counting the cost and just seeing if it's right for them. But that is affecting the home buying market. Because of the fact that we are the home buying age. This is when the age range of when people start purchasing homes or can afford to purchase homes. So the industry, although again it's seeing a boom, there are some downsides, and that's the case with everything. Another interesting take is that a lot of individuals are teleworking right now. So because of that, you don't want to get locked into, a mortgage or get locked into this home buying, experience, because it's definitely an experience. I've been around some people who've purchased homes, and the process can be a little grueling. So I'll call it an experience. A lot of individuals who, are just renting right now are maybe doing so because of telework. And with telework, you're not, no one's really sure if we're all going to be permanently teleworking from now, from here on out, if companies are going to bring their employees back into the office. I do see individuals going back to the office. I don't think it's going to be in the capacity that it once was. So we might see, a split between teleworking and being at home. So because of that, it is more to consider when looking to move. So a lot of millennials, from the studies that I've been looking at, some research I've done, they're just making sure that it is the right time at the right price. You're getting exactly what you want before they're making that decision to buy a home. Now, although we do have some individuals, specifically in the millennial age range, who are just continuing to rent, we are seeing an influx of home buyers as well. So there's, two groups of millennials, I'll say, between the ages of around 21, 22 to 29, and then you have from 30 to 39. The older millennials make up 25% of the home buying population. So let's go back. The millennials make up around 40% of the home buying market right now. And of that 40%, 25% of the older millennials own homes. And then the other half of that age group, which is the 22 to 29, make up 13% of that close to 40% of the home buying population. So you are seeing an increase in who's buying and who's not. Again, it's just a lot to consider because of the pandemic. So a lot of millennials are looking to make wise decisions when purchasing a home. They don't want to just buy a home because they like it. They have to consider, if you have children, you have to consider where their school is and if they're going to be learning virtually or if they're going to be learning, on a hybrid, or are they in school? And then you might be teleworking as well. So you never know if you have to go back to work. So you don't want to move somewhere that's too far from work. You want to make sure you're in the right vicinity. And then there's that demand in residential homes right now. And not everyone is able to get what they want because of that demand. So there's just a lot of factors that are playing a part. However, despite all of that, there are still people that's buying. I know a lot of real estate agents. They're basically independent contractors who are selling homes left and right. They're like, hey, I have these properties. Someone's looking to sell. I feel like in business, someone's always selling something. So even though the demand isn't being, they're not able to keep up, the builders and aren't able to keep up with the demand of those who are looking to buy, there are some people who are faring pretty well. So we have a few millennial home buyers. We have a few agents that are, doing well right now. And because you have certain programs like first-time home buyers, for example, you are going to continue to see a growth. Some experts are predicting or forecasting that we'll continue to see this big portion of the home buying market continue to grow in the years to come because of certain programs. Again, there are amazing rates, some rates that you haven't seen in years. And the reason for that, I would say, is because of we learned what we learned from the '08 market crash, and you don't want the market to become so volatile that, there's nothing you can do with it. It plummets, right? So to offset that, the rates were lowered, and that increased the demand. And then from there, we have this influx of home buyers and not enough houses to meet the demand. So the market is definitely I would say seeing a boom right now. Again, millennials are the biggest home buyers at this point, so a lot of industry experts are keeping an eye on them, seeing how they shop, how they go about home buying. Different studies and case studies are being done all the time. I always like to do my own research, so we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll just talk about some different type of residential real estate styles there are. As an entrepreneur or as a business owner, you might be looking to pivot, or as an entrepreneur, you might be looking to hop in the market right now. It's said to be pretty easier than it was in the past to get into the market. So again, when we come back, we'll be talking about that, and then after that, we'll talk about some hometown heroes. All right, stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand.
And today we've been talking about the real estate market, specifically the residential real estate market, the '08 market crash, just to give some background knowledge, and then just discussing millennials, because millennials are at their peak home buying age. So they are making up for a lot of the home buying market. And then right now, we're just going to touch on some fun things I think that are fun flipping to start. We'll talk about some selling and some education. So home flipping is literally when an investor in the home buying market decides to purchase a home and in the intent to sell it as quickly as possible to make a profit, because as we know, the market is constantly changing. Things are constantly moving and shaking when it comes to the home buying market. So flippers, or as we would call wholesale real estate investors, they're looking to purchase a home that might be that might need some work, or might need a lot of work. You might have to, for example, gut the whole house or take the whole house apart, put it back up. There's a lot of different things that may need to get done. So those in that segment of the market, they're looking to sell as quickly as possible to make a profit. So right now, during the pandemic, this would be a perfect time for a flipper to get into, flipping homes, because the demand for homes is so high. The only difference is there's not enough homes being sold. So what a lot of flippers do, I've seen some do it, campaigns on Instagram, Facebook, different outlets of that nature, just looking for people who are selling homes so that they can be, one of the first to to purchase their home, or be one of the first in line to purchase their home so they can resell it for a profit. Now, for some, this is just, something that they do on the side to supplement their main source of income. And for others, this is the day in, the day out. This is how, they eat. This is the bread and butter. So basically, when you're flipping a home, you want to buy very low as possible, as close to zero as possible. You want to sell for high, or as much as you can, just like with any other type of investment, right? So rather than some agents who may purchase a few properties and then they may keep one, and then they may sell to others, they may rent to someone else. A flipper is strictly looking to get in and get out. So I kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool. There's a lot of fees and things that you have to pay. when you're doing things like that. And it is a big risk because you just never know how the market can go. Like, again, no one can predict the pandemic. So if you're staying up to date in your industry, that's why it's very important to research. You want to stay current on what's going on in your industry. This might be a great time for you. I know some people are doing fairly well. So again, the goal is to buy low and sell high. So you don't want to get in, you don't want to purchase a home, let's say for $500,000 and then it only needs $20,000 of repair, and then you're trying to resell it for $700,000. It's things like that. Just there's a rule in place to help you to narrow down the close to perfect price as possible, and that's the 70% rule. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of math, one of my favorite subjects. All right, so there's what's called the 70% rule, and that's basically stating that an investor or the flipper shouldn't pay any more than 70% of what the house will sell for. And from that price, you want to subtract how much it's going to cost to repair it. That final number that you get, that's what the 70% rule is saying. You shouldn't pay any more than that final number. So again, if you find a home that you want to purchase, and after you repair it and after you've got it all polished and ready to sell, let's say that cost right there is $300,000, right? So you want to put it on the market for $300,000. You're a flipper, you've fixed it up, and that's the price that you want to sell it for. So in order to see how much you should even initially purchase a rehab type of home for, you want to do the 70% rule. So that would take that $300,000 of what you want to sell it for, and let's say the repair costs are $50,000. So you want to sell it for $300,000. This house is going to cost you $50,000 to repair. What you want to do is take the $300,000, that final sales price. You want to multiply that by 70% or 0.70. So $300,000 times 70. And that's going to give you $210,000. So now you want to take that $210,000 and subtract your repair costs from it. So remember, the house, to repair it, is about $50,000. So you want to take 70% of $300,000 for the sake of our example, and subtract the $50,000 in repair. So that's $210,000 minus $50,000, and that'll get you a purchase price, or what you should be paying for, of $160,000. So the 70% rule, especially for new investors, if you're not good at pricing just yet, you might want to stick with this rule until you can, really get in the swing of things. This rule is saying that if you want to sell that home for $300,000 and it's going to be $50,000 in repairs, you shouldn't purchase that home if it's over $160,000 when you go to buy it. So again, flippers, they go and they find houses that might need some maintenance or might need some work done. They buy that home. In this case, let's say you bought it at the max of $160,000. You would put $50,000 worth of repair into it. That'll give you $210,000. And then you would want to sell it for that $300,000. So again, when you're new into it, that might be the way that you do your pricing. Again, the industry is always changing. Again, like I've been stating, I know a lot of people have been stating it. The pandemic is playing a very influential role during this time. And that would explain why you're seeing such an increase in prices, because the cost to purchase the home is going up. And then if this person rehabs the home or, refreshes it, makes it look new with some new adjustments, they want the price to reflect what they've put into the home. So that's what essentially how you would price your flipping when you're going about purchasing the home to flip. And then you just want to be mindful of a few things. You want to make sure you have enough money to do it. Again, like for the example today, that purchase for the flipper, initially they had to put out $160,000. I don't know a lot of people who have $160,000 cold cash that they can use to flip a home. So in the traditional sense, a lot of individuals would finance the purchasing of a rehab home. And, that's getting more into the weeds of it. But that was one way that you could do it. Now, a lot of people are looking to use savings, or they've sold another home and they took the profits from the sale of that home. They might be renting right now while they're flipping another home, while they're teleworking. The pandemic has brought on some new scenarios of how people are streaming income, especially in this market. So you want to make sure you have enough money to actually put in, because it's very risky, getting into the real estate business, because again, the market's always fluctuating. You never know how much time you have to put into it. It's definitely very time consuming, so you want to be mindful of how much time you're putting into this. Do you have enough time? Do you work a 9 to 5 and then you might have another side job? So flipping might not just be in the cards for you, or you can afford, you have enough money to afford a team to do certain tasks for you. So will you be spending time watching them as opposed to actually getting other things done? So there's a few things you want to consider. You want to, if you are the builder, shout out to my brother. He can actually rebuild things. So for him, I feel like this is a great time in the industry, because if you're a builder, you can cut out some of the cost of repairmen. What you might have to hire a contracted plumber to do the pipe work in the home. You might have to contract out an electrician. There's a few different things that has to get done when you're rehabbing a home. So if you know how to do these things, or you have a partner who knows how to do these things, you could make out even better with that end profit with flipping a home. So the flipping of the homes can be very profitable for some people. And as always, you want to be knowledgeable and patient. You want to take your time really understanding the industry that you're getting into. For me, I've been watching the real estate market for some time, and it was once a consideration of mine to get into the market. Maybe one day I'll still hop in. But it is time consuming. You definitely want to know what you're doing. As with any industry, wherever there's humans, there is room for error. So you just want to be mindful of different roadblocks that can come up when hopping into the residential real estate industry, especially with flipping homes. A lot goes into it. You want to do it as quickly as possible, but you want it to be done right. So there's just a lot to consider. So you definitely want to take your time and make sure you know what you're doing, right? And then there is just the traditional selling of homes. Now, normally this is done, I would at least advise, if you're looking to sell a property, to hire the experts. We have experts in every industry for great cause. You want to avoid being, scammed. I can't stress that enough. You just want to be knowledgeable on what you're doing, and it's easy to get scammed when you don't really know what you're doing, or if this is your first time. So I would just advise to have an agent, or what's known as a listing agent. So they pretty much help clients find people who are looking to buy properties, right? So they meet with different clients. They figure out what the house should be listed as, as far as the selling price. They have to set up arrangements to get pictures taken of the property. Some listing agents like to decorate the property before listing it to make sure, it looks presentable to the eye. If the property might need a few updates, it might need new roofing, or, just things that they can see that an inspector hasn't had the time to come and look at just yet. That listing agent might suggest it. They're constantly looking for clients, because in this industry, if you have no buyers and you have no sellers, there's nothing. So they should be constantly on the market looking for individuals to buy, because they are on the other side of the transaction, which is selling it. So a lot of times, some of these agents might have an assistant. So if you're looking to get your feet wet, you might want to start off as an assistant just to see the day-to-day of what they do. There's constant phone calls and text messages. I remember one of my one real estate agent, I was going through looking for a place her phone was going off nonstop. People, again, it's a demand right now for properties. So people are looking to purchase, people are looking to get different things. So constantly on the phone, making flyers. And I know a lot of people who are heavily using social media now, they're constantly doing ad campaigns and different listings and different sales strategies. So it's a lot that goes into selling. But I think it's a pretty good industry, especially right now. If you're in a position to do so right now, everyone's looking to buy. So you might be on the good side of things with selling, even though sales might be lower because the demand for it is so high and there's not enough properties to meet the demand. You might be able to find a good sweet spot in there. So that's something to consider. And then there's education. Now, typically, you would go through an agency and or take specific courses and make sure you're licensed. And there's a few different things that you have to do to be able to be an agent or to be able to flip. There's just a few different things. You got to get your ducks in order, in a row, so that you're not violating any laws and things of that nature. So what I'm learning is that those who are in the industry who aren't able to really see a profit from maybe they were selling or maybe they were always looking to help people buy or purchase, they are having, online e-courses and they're showing others how to get in the game. Now, with different school budgets and different educational costs being cut, a lot of people are taking to the online classroom route. And you don't have to worry about a budget in a sense. It's more than likely very minuscule compared to what it would cost to actually physically attend a course or become a teacher to teach others how to get in the game. So what a lot of individuals are taking advantage of is taking their skills online, creating quick self-help books, quick step-by-step manuals and pamphlets of different ways that you can invest in real estate, different organizations that can assist you in beginning to invest, again, the first time homebuyers, just all different type of educational things that can happen online where you don't actually have to have the traditional education style. A lot of people love going to Google for education, listening to podcasts for education, watching videos on YouTube. So there's a lot of open playing field there for those who are in the industry and who are very knowledgeable. And you might also have that big clientele. You will be the ones to spearhead the new wave of the e-education and getting you can get a lot of clients that way. Being a industry expert, people love the industry experts. A lot of people look to those who have done it for years for that advice, or for that, just that pat on the back that says, okay, you know what, I thought to do something this way. I'm going to go confirm it with the industry expert. They've confirmed what I thought. And you might be helping the next entrepreneur out. So again, you can get into flipping, you can get into selling, or you can get into teaching. I love education, so I think that's a cool field to get into. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into one of my favorite segments, the Hometown Heroes, just briefly touching on some individuals in the real estate game who I think are killing it right now or have the potential to grow very big, if they keep up the amazing work that they're doing. All right, so stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
residential real estate industry and how it was in '08, back when the market crashed in the beginning of the 2000s, and then how we are faring now and how there's been a big boom in how many people are looking to purchase homes. Partly, well, I would say majority due to the pandemic. And those factors are teleworking, loss of income. Some individuals have lost some loved ones, so there has been a loss of that additional income in the home. So a lot of people are looking to downsize. The pandemic has let a lot of people know that during this time, you just want to be wise with your investments and wise with how you're saving. A lot of people have gotten into investing, trying to make their money work for them, especially now that everyone's looking to make working a more easier thing to do. Obviously, work can be hard, but some new ways of doing things are just simplifying some of our old processes. So you're going to see a lot of industries growing and changing and moving. So right now we're seeing a demand in the residential real estate market. A lot of people are looking to buy. There's just not enough to sell. So you're seeing a very interesting pivot that the market is doing. So just some individuals who I think have been putting in the work and have been separating themselves from the competition on how they're moving in the industry. Just my hometown heroes. So we're going to start with, I'm sure you've heard of him, Grant Cardone. And Grant Cardone has the Cardone Capital, and that is basically, a platform where you can invest into the Cardone Fund. And from there, you'll be able to see if you can gain a profit. Now, anytime you're investing, I just always like to give my disclaimer that there is always a high risk that you will not make your money back, or that you'll take a loss. So you might walk away with part of your money, but you might not come away with everything, or you might not come away with a profit. So with his investment company, there are some pros and some cons. So the compensation for some of people who have invested with him have said, the management compensation can be high, and the minimum investment is $5,000, and that's for a non-accredited investor. And for an accredited investor, the minimum is $100,000. So there's definitely different classes for how he handles his investors. And I would say, again, everything has its risk, but I like what he's doing. I like his education. He's an author. There's all types of channels that you can watch him giving great information on YouTube. I know a few other individuals who are, I would say the real local hometown heroes, in different cities who are just getting their feet in the door, kind of emulating him and kind of taking what they're learning and putting their own take on it, making it unique to them. Grant Cardone has a very, very strong track record. He's been in the game for a very, very long time. And many of the properties that they own are that the Cardone Capital Investor funds, that they help investors make their money off of. He stays up with it. He has a lot of return deals, and they say that it's in a low risk asset class because he does multifamily residential real estate. So normally that's the more safe part of real estate. So I think what he's doing is awesome. I tend to stay up with him and check out some of his videos from time to time. So if you're interested, and I would take a look at him. I never give advice on what you should do. This is just a suggestion on what you can do, right? So that's the first hometown hero. The second hometown hero is Mr. G, also known as Greg Parker with G Parker Unlimited. You might, if you follow him or if you check him out on Instagram, you might know him under the umbrella of Big Business. He's also another investor who deals with the residential real estate industry. He has properties in Philly, Jersey, Detroit, Miami, I want to say in Ohio. I believe he's looking to go to the Baltimore area and around the DMV. And he is just constantly putting in the work. He has different camps that you can go to. So, you might want to, I like the way he markets his camps. You might want to get away from where you are. The pandemic has just been very stressful. So he holds different classes in different cities. I believe he just recently held a class in Miami. So there was a nice nice atmosphere. I personally love the beach. So that looked like it was an awesome time where he educates individuals on his Instagram pages. He's constantly posting tips, and he goes live in the mornings so that you can hop on and ask different questions. It's nothing like being able to really access one of those industry leaders. So oftentimes we see these leaders who have great information when we want to pick their brain, but millions of people or thousands of people are emailing them all the time. I like what Mr. G does. He gets on live and he allows his viewers to ask him questions. He answers the questions honestly. He's really integral in the revitalization of the urban community. He really looks for, I would say, the most dilapidated areas and looks to build that area back up, which I think is awesome. Again, earlier we discussed the racial gap when it comes to home buying, and sometimes the individuals can afford to purchase a home. It just depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the pricing. So I like what he's doing. He's able to offer a variety of options. So if you're looking for more upscale, if you're looking for something that's more budget friendly, he's definitely one of the leaders in the industry that you may want to take a look at and just see how he's handling things. And I took a look at his bio on his website and watching him on Instagram and seeing what, he's actually doing in the community. He's from the North Philly area, and he still goes back and he still he pays it forward to those coming up behind him. So he's not just from what I can see, he's not just one of those guys who is talking about rebuilding urban communities and getting these neighborhoods back together or getting them to a place that they've never saw before. He's actually in the weeds. He has a very hands-on approach with what he does in this industry. So I think he's a cool guy to pay attention to. He can be followed on Instagram, and again, that's the G Parker Unlimited. You might want to take a look at his website. I know, he holds courses so that you can learn the game from him. He rents out some things, he sells other things, so he definitely has some properties listed on his website. So I would definitely give him a look. Again, he's on social media, and he's on a quick Google search, you'll be able to look him up. And our third and final hometown hero for today is the brand Hood Estates. It's by the Judsons, and they grew up in Liberty City in Miami, Florida. So they grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. The odds were pretty stacked against them. There's, many people from many different rough neighborhoods who are looking for different ways to generate income. So seeing some of these hometown heroes who come from certain places, from all diverse backgrounds, who are able to really make an imprint and really make an imprint on their community, to me, that speaks volumes. They started the real estate around 2013, and they branded that name. And because of that, again, they've had a lot of years of experience. And from there, they have an Instagram page, and that's I follow them on Instagram. And I saw that they talk about, real estate and investing in certain urban communities. They even go on to teach passive truck investing. There's financial freedom courses. They give a lot of inspirational quotes and tips on investing into certain spaces. You can sign up for their courses, and you can sit under some pretty cool industry leaders and learn a lot about their industry. and what they have to offer, and how, I feel like there's never enough education. You can never know too much. I feel like there's always room for more knowledge and room for more growth. So really, being able to see those who are willingly and openly teaching others on how to invest and how to get involved, I think is really, really awesome. So not only do they offer some online courses that you can pay for and really sit under these guys and learn and gals and learn from them. They also do some fun social media games. I remember there was the 12-week money challenge. So each week, you start off pretty small, and then you work up into the point where you're saving $100 per week, to get to, the point of either saving up some money for investing, which should be the goal. But for others, different goals for different people, right? So I just like the way that they give options. You don't have to just go and buy their course, and that's the only way that you can learn from them. They give different investment ideas, especially the passive truck investing that they talk about often. So I just think that these guys, Grant Cardone, Mr. G. Parker, and Hood Estates, I think they're really killing the game right now. They're definitely under my radar. I definitely pay attention to them often, just to see what they're talking about, to see any new industry trends, see different things that are going on. So again, today we talk about the residential real estate industry and how it was before when it crashed, and how it's grown exponentially during the pandemic because of the pandemic's influence on the market, and how many businesses and agents and buyers and sellers had to pivot during this time. So we're seeing an influx of those looking to buy, but there's just not enough homes to sell, right? So right now we're seeing a very interesting time in the industry, especially with millennials being the bulk, I would say, of the new home buyers, because we are at that age. I'm a millennial myself, looking to purchase a home. Some millennials are on the side of renting, some are on the side of let's purchase and get it over with. But that has a few effects, because if you don't have enough for that down payment, chances are you might still be renting until you can get your ducks lined up and in a row, which a lot of new home buyers are doing. And then we just briefly touched on some different ways you can get involved in the industry if you're looking to do traditional selling of properties, if you're looking to flip, and we gave an example of the 70% rule, so you know how much you should have at initial startup fees. And then we talked about how a lot of real estate agents and those who are in the industry are beginning to educate others and show others how to hop on the wave. All right. So again, our hometown heroes today was the Grant Cardone, then you have Mr. G with Big Business, and then you have the Hood Estates, and they're more so educating others on how to get involved in the industry. All right. So I just want to say thanks for listening. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Business Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. If you could leave, wherever you're listening, on whichever platform you're on, be sure to leave a review. Give us some stars. Let us know how we're doing. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, and the GSMC Network can be followed on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, so make sure you check us out. Again, it's your girl Moriah. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
You've been listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.